Hey, welcome. Here we are. Video regarding building no-code, low-code automation workflows. We're going to use 3 different platforms today and walk you through how we put that together to build the front end of your stack. So we use Zapier and Airtable and a thing called Make.com. So let's get on with it, shall we? Okay, here we go. First of all, the beginning step of all of this sort of thing when you're building a stack is to look backward, do the audit. So we look at the left side of the screen there. We're trying to develop a reasonably close facsimile to those functions. And on the right side, we have 5 big questions to ask. Where does your customer data currently live? Where is it at? What does your team do repeatedly every day? Which tools don't communicate with each other? Who on your team could become citizen developers, bypassing the need for engineers? And then finally, what are the quick wins and what efforts require more involved multi-step customer journey automation? Now, I'm going to leave those descriptions up there so that when you look at this deck in the privacy of your mind, you can read the further details. But let's get on with how we go about doing this. First of all, we think about this idea of workflows. Workflow number 1 is the lead qualification. We're going to use Zapier platform. We're going to try to automate lead and qualification routing. You're a company that needs to have lots of people coming in and buying your goods, and when they come to your website, when they come to visit you, you want to know this. So the scenario is simple. New leads come from multiple sources: your website, social media, webinars, trade shows, the whole 9 yards. Currently, they all go to a general inbox where they sit until someone manually reviews and assigns them. We're going to automate new leads. So we're going to figure out how this all comes together. First thing we do, step 1, using Zapier, we set the trigger, creating a new form submission. It looks something like this. It's a facsimile of what Zapier might look like. And we're looking through the various ways in which we might get leads, and it would be HubSpot and Eventbrite and LinkedIn and so forth. Now, with second step on the automating new leads is to introduce the lead scoring logic. It's the means by which we're going to actually evaluate the lead quality based on the size, budget, range, and timeline of the customer or the prospect. With these filter adjustments, now we're set to score the lead. Next step 3, we can conditionally, this is what is called conditional routing here, and it's basically, this is the power of Zapier. It is found in a thing called paths, and it gives us an opportunity to categorize hot leads, warm leads, cold leads. In other words, hot leads being the most prioritized, right? So with paths, the lead can be directed to an action point. And if it's a hot lead, we want to get it to somebody's hands right now and get a response. Step 4 is to bring in data enrichment. Now, data enrichment basically is that before routing this, we'll use something Clearbit was purchased by HubSpot. So it's HubSpot's Zapier integration. And this is a means to automatically, that's what we're trying to do here, automate, enrich lead data with company information, social media profiles, and technographic information. Now, our sales team now has context before they make contact. That's the whole concept. It's a pretty simple idea, but essentially these platforms like Zapier give us an opportunity to do this. With data enrichment, company data accompanies the lead. Pretty simple. Now, the result here is what used to take hours of manual sorting now happens in seconds, right? Your hottest leads get immediate attention and nothing falls through the cracks. Average response time drops from hours to minutes, or even days to minutes, right? Workflow number 2, the scenario. Your marketing team creates blog posts, social media content, email campaigns. We know what all that stuff is, sales materials. But there's no central system tracking. That's where we know what's published or where, when, how it's performing. Content gets duplicated, messaging becomes inconsistent, and opportunities for repurposing are missed. We'll automate this content. Step 1, content master database. That's what we're trying to find, what we call in Airtable the content hub. Over on the right side, you'll see basically what it would look like in the content hub in Airtable. And essentially, these are the 4 categories: content pieces, distribution channels, how we're going to get this out there. Campaign tracking, we always have to measure performance. And then team assignments, who creates, who reviews, who approves, and who distributes. Then step number 2 in the automating of content is to come up with the automated content variants. This is the clever part in Airtable. When someone creates a new blog post record, we'll use Airtable's automation feature to automatically generate tasks for creating social media variants. The automation will create LinkedIn post drafts, for example, generate Twitter leads, threads, draft email newsletter content, suggest sales enablement. This is the whole concept behind the stack, is to give us the opportunity to automate. Step 3 is cross-platform publishing. So now we're working across various things like Buffer, Hootsuite, or Later. Later is a clever little platform also that you might want to take a look at. It's a means of automatically scheduling content. So now we're kind of putting the whole piece together here. We're starting to get an understanding. Now we move to number 4. Now we want to get to the performance tracking loop so that we can connect Google Analytics, social media analytics, and email performance data back to Airtable. This creates a feedback loop, right? Showing which content types perform best on which channels, informing future content creation decisions. So we set up the automated reports. The result of all this is your content team spends more time creating, less time on distribution logistics. Content performance is visibility improves dramatically, and you start seeing compound effects from strategic repurposing. Workflow number 3. This scenario now, the new customers sign up, but their onboarding experience, bringing them into the company, is inconsistent. Some get welcome emails, others don't. Account setup instructions might be delayed. There's no systematic way to track onboarding progress or identify customers who need additional support. The solution: automated customer onboarding. So it looks like this. Step 2 then is to move to the customer segmentation logic. Unlike simpler automation tools, Make.com allows sophisticated logic. We'll create conditional paths based on these sorts of things on the right here. The customer tier, that is the starter, professional, enterprise, whatever it happens to be. The implementation complexity, things like self-serve versus white glove service. And then previous customer experience, which might be new versus returning. It's the way we're going to treat them in the database. We actually have that customer in our database. Maybe we have to make a new file. And then 4th, integration requirements, simple versus complex stack requirements. So that's what we're trying to do here. Workflow number 3 then moves on to step 3, and that's multi-touch onboarding sequence. There's 2, we just talked about this, the enterprise customer and the self-serve customer. Enterprise customers immediately create dedicated Slack channel, for example. They schedule implementation kickoff within 48 hours. They assign dedicated customer success manager, generate custom implementation timeline, and send welcome package to shipping address. All that should be automated so somebody doesn't have to tend to it and then basically forget about it or fail to do it. On the other side, the self-serve customer, that is a person that actually gets an instant welcome email with a quick start guide. How do we get programmed here? Progressive email series over 30 days so that we walk them through the onboarding process. In-app onboarding task checklist or automated check-ins, for example, that we get the 7, 14, and 30-day check-ins of a week, bi-weekly, and then monthly. And then we flag for human intervention if, in fact, engagement drops. This gives us a chance to maybe make use of our people a little bit more productively. Then we move to step number 4, which is about this progress tracking and intervention. That's what we just talked about. How do we actually jump in? Find out where we need to be. Here's where Make.com's power shines. We'll monitor onboarding progress across multiple systems. The email engagement rates, for example, product usage analytics. Are they jumping in and using and looking at and viewing our stuff? Support ticket creation, implementation milestone completion. So that at the end of the day, when the system detects patterns of concern, for example, low email open rates or combined with minimal product usage, we know there's a connection there. It automatically triggers intervention workflows. gives us an opportunity to jump in and take action. Personal outreach from customer success or the customer success people, or offering training session or escalation to an account management. This is what automation can do for you. So what we end up with here is step number 5. That's basically the success celebration and expansion. When customers complete key onboarding milestones, the system celebrates success and identifies those expansion opportunities. Once we get somebody on board, we want to keep on feeding them and moving them to that down the customer journey, and that basically is to loyalty, right? So we want to automate congratulation messages. We want a case study interview invitations. We want referral program enrollment. That's always good when someone's willing to recommend you. Advanced feature recommendations based on usage patterns. Now, the result here should be onboarding becomes a competitive advantage, not a burden. Customer time to value decreases. Retention rates improve. And your team can focus on high-touch interactions while automation handles routine touch points. Word of caution. We know that we don't want to make all this automation appear to be purely automation. There has to be a human touch, and that has to do with the nuanced way in which we handle some of this information, some of the communication. We'll talk more about that too. Okay, so what we have now is the implementation strategy and best practices. This is for the 3 sophisticated workflows we've built. If we look at phase 1, that's the foundation. 2 weeks usually. Start with one simple automation that involves an obvious pain point that the company is having. Lead routing is good. That's a good place to start. Lead routing, because it is immediately visible and measurable, and leads are very important that we capture them quickly and get them into action points. Get your team comfortable with the concept before adding complexity, which comes in phase 2. When we expand, adding your second automation in different functional area, for example, would be a good move. If you started with sales-focused automation, move to marketing or customer success. This demonstrates the cross-functional value and builds organizational confidence, and we're starting to spread the idea across the company. Phase 3, that takes 4 weeks, by the way. And then we move to phase 3, which is the balance, 6 more weeks. This is integration. Now, you see what we've done here. We've actually created an opening. We've created a transition, if you will, and now we're moving into full integration. So now we connect your automations. We make your lead routing system inform your content distribution decisions. That's critical. Let your customer onboarding system trigger content personalization. That's what I was saying about how do we actually create some nuanced kinds of messages so they don't feel like they're just being jogged around by a computer, even though they're being jogged around by a computer. This is where the real magic happens, when your automations start working together, demonstrates that cross-functional value and builds organizational confidence. Finally, we're getting to the implementation strategy and best practices with the 5 critical success factors. 1, documentation. Document every automation thoroughly. Include the trigger conditions, expected outcomes, troubleshooting steps. Your future self will thank you. Monitoring. Set up monitoring for your automations. Most platforms offer error notifications, but also monitor business metrics. Is your lead response time actually improving? These are the things we can measure. Are onboarding completion rates increasing? Then iteration. We know that iteration is something we've talked about in the course a lot, because it's always a matter of kind of moving forward, checking back, moving forward, checking it back, so that we're getting a kind of a real-time read on everything that's happening. As you introduce something, there's going to be a reaction. We want that reaction to take place, and we want to go back and fix or adjust for that reaction. So plan for continuous improvement. Schedule monthly reviews of automation performance and identify the optimization opportunities. 4th, testing. Always test with simple data first. Create test scenarios for edge cases, for example. What happens when someone submits a form with incomplete information? That never happens, right? Or when an integration temporarily fails. When those things happen, we lose contact, we lose touch, and we want to have some safeguard in there that allows us to reach back and get that file re-energized. So we move to team training, and that's always encompasses everything we do, because if you fail to kind of bring people on board with the training so they really do not have to fend for themselves, They actually they realize that we are investing in training for your citizen developers, something we talked about earlier. The platforms we've discussed offer excellent documentation and training resources, but people have to know how to use them. Consider creating internal workshops where team members have automation successes and challenges. Okay, so what we have here is measuring success, the operational metrics, the business impact metrics, and then the ROI calculation framework. 3 good ways that we actually can reach back and say to our bosses, is this working or is it not? Finally, that's the next steps in this program are basically we want to choose one workflow from our session. Now, this is what I'm talking about, next steps in this course. This is what we'd like to be able to do, something you ought to be considering, at least mentally walking through. First of all, choosing a workflow from one of our sessions to implement, and then move on to identifying first citizen developer. That should be someone who understands both the business requirements. Third, audit your current tech stack using the framework as we discussed. Now we're actually getting down to where we can move into implementation, that whole idea of blocking time in your calendar for building and testing automations. And then fifth is to choose one workflow from our session to implement this week. Now, this is all stuff that you can do at some time. It's not necessarily something we're going to do at this point in the course, but this would be a way in which you want to kind of practice this practice. That's what you want to get done. So what we have here is two sides of the coin: operational metrics and business impact metrics, and that's the way we're going to try to make this whole ROI calculation framework work. Okay, so what we have is a summary of what we've done here. The goal isn't perfect automation from day one. No, start simple, measure impact, iterate based on results. Iterate based on results. That means we look back and forth and kind of gauge our progress. Every manual task you eliminate frees your team to focus on strategic or creative or relationship building activities. Until then, start building. Choose one workflow. Set aside 2 hours this week and begin automating your first process. Your future self and your team will thank you for taking this first step forward toward operational excellence. That's what it's all about, folks. We will wrap up the course in the next video. Always fun to be with you. Thanks a lot. See you.